Hari Om. Chapter 13 begins with Arjun asking, Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetra Kshetragya Mevacha. These are two words that have been added by Arjun. They have not been mentioned by Krishna before this. What does he mean? He simply means that, of course, he's asking Krishna what it means. So, Krishna has already explained by the end of 6th verse that Kshetra is the outer trappings or envelopments, let's call it, of the Purusha or the consciousness. So it's like consciousness exists, like the space exists within the room, but the walls of the room are what we define as the house. When we say house, we define it by the windows, doors, decorations on the walls, etc. But the space within is what is enveloped. It's the same with our body. Our body and mind is actually the outer envelopment. Kshetra, Kshetragyam. What is the purpose of this? So, if the Kshetra, that is the body, envelopment, is dressed up, it's the outer covering, it is meant to transact with the outer world, the Sansari world. And that's all. It is only a counter. It's like a shop. Shop में एक counter होता है जिस पर हम transaction करते हैं बाहर से अंदर तक. The body is only a transacting counter to interact with the world. But we make this cardinal mistake over and over again, thinking that I am this body, this mind, this envelopment, and therefore all the sorrow, all the disturbance and all the agitations which we collect for ourselves. Actually, it's just the body and mind interacting with the world. This small mistake Bhagwan wants to dispel from our minds, to say that, look, Arjun, if you only remember that the difference between Nar and Narayan, that is Prakriti and Purush. Purush is that consciousness and Prakriti is what you are, just made up of 5 elements, matter. And if you can distinguish between the two, कि अरे मैं सिर्फ नर नहीं हूँ, मैं नारायण भी हूँ. It is just a bhakti way of giving two names. Nar Narayan is not a word used by Krishna. He has used the word Kshetra, Kshetragyam, or Prakriti, Purusha. Or simply we can say Deha and Atma. Now, how does the Prakriti, that is the body, mind, intellect, how does it function? This body, mind, intellect, Prakriti is the outer envelopment which functions by demonstrating that there is in me, there is man, abhiman, pride, and there is agitation, jealousy, fears. जब जितने भी विकार होते हैं, मन के विकार, वो सब body में, या by body I mean of course the whole envelope, that is body, mind, intellect. And so Bhagwan is simply trying to say in chapter 13, is the most beautiful chapter. He is trying to say, see, all this vikara means modifications of jealousy and anger and kama and krodh and sorrow, all this brings sorrow. And this bundle of sorrow that we carry with us, कि मेरा हो गया अपमान, मेरी हो गई पराजय, मेरा हो गया नुकसान, ये सब बाहर हो रहा है, and we are free. ये सब, this is the private wealth of the Jiva. This is the private property of the Jiva. We are not only Jiva. We are Jiva as one part for 80, 90, 100 years. That is the only entity. Jiva is the entity which is collecting all this sorrow. But who is the experiencer of all this? That experiencer is the, we can call it the Chetanman or the awareness. And you know something? Nothing can touch it. And yet we feel that it is somehow this sorrow of the outer world and of the body, mind, intellect has transferred to the self, to my real self. It seems so, it appears so, but it can never be so. Our inner true self can never be touched by the outer agitations. It appears to be so because what is the reason? The reason is simple. We are not able to disassociate this Kshetra, Kshetragyam, or Purusha or Prakriti, or let's call it Jiva and Atma. That Nar and Narayan का distinction नहीं समझ में आता है. हम सोचते हैं हम यही तो हैं, यही बॉडी तो मैं हूँ. जैसे ही हमारी नींद खुलती है सुबह, फर्स्ट थिंग इन द मॉर्निंग, द फर्स्ट अवेयरनेस इज आई एम, मैं हूँ. उसके बाद थोड़ी देर में कुछ थॉट्स आते हैं, अरे मैं ये हूँ, यानी कि मैं अपना अस्तित्व याद आ जाता है कि मैं फला फला हूँ। फिर याद आता है मुझे एज दिस पर्सन सो एंड सो, जो भी नाम हो और जो भी औधा हो, जो भी पोजीशन हो, मुझे फला फला काम करना है। सो आई एम ओनली अ नाम एंड सम कार्य विच इज एसोसिएटेड विथ ऑल दैट आइडेंटिटी। मैं हूँ और मैं फला फला हूँ और मैं फिर ऐसा हूँ या वैसा हूँ। ये सब थॉट्स एक चेन में आती हैं। बट व्हेन वी आर asleep, of course, none of this exists because I as an entity is missing, because the body is dormant, the mind is dormant, the intellect is dormant. Then who am I? तो वो जागते ही ये विकार सब वापस आ जाते हैं। एंड सेम विथ सॉरो। Sorrow is not felt in deep sleep at all. Nobody can ever wake up and say कि in my deep sleep I was most distressed. अरे distress आएगा कैसे? When that body, mind, intellect was missing, which means this body, mind and intellect is the only platform for the mad dance of sorrow. ये जो नाच चल रहा है ना, ये जो खेल चल रहा है, sorrow, विकार and distress of the world and ups and downs of the world and victory and defeat and all that, ये सब खेल केवल एक प्लेटफॉर्म पर चल रहा है, बॉडी माइंड इंटेलेक्ट पर। when we are in deep meditation or in deep sleep, naturally वो प्लेटफॉर्म होता ही नहीं, so we have no sorrow, no agitation, of course no joy also because joy is not independent. Joy is the opposite of sorrow. But bliss is what we feel. Bliss has no opposite. What is the difference between joy and bliss? Joy is coming and going. Because I have pizza, I feel a great sense of joy. I travel to a distant land to meet my family, I have great joy. That is coming and going. But bliss is who I am. It can never be distant from me, far away or non-existent. So bliss is permanent. Now, this distinction we are not able to make between the kshetra, the field. Kshetra literally means field, and kshetragyam, the knower of that field. The separation of these two in our mind is the only knowledge we need. कि इसको separate करो भैया, because जो चीज़ मैं नहीं हूँ, मैं outer cover या envelope नहीं हूँ, उस envelope के अंदर क्या है, वो असल में मैं हूँ. So in deep meditation also we are supposed to keep our attention on this thought that I am not this outer covering, and then we can hold that thought. Then what am I? I exist in the wide open spaces of consciousness. So consciousness is not in me meaning my body, but my body actually exists in this vast cosmic consciousness which is everywhere. So I'm floating, this body is actually floating around in a medium, and the medium is consciousness. It's everywhere. Having said this, Bhagwan goes on to say in the 7th verse onwards. In some books the verse will be 8th one, because verse number 1 is the question of Arjun, which was added later by some scholars. So some of our books will say verse number 8, some will say verse number 7. Now 7th verse onwards, in my book 8th verse onwards, Bhagwan has said, look, whatever that is which you are not, that means whatever is not your true self, please disassociate yourself with it. And what are these wrong things that we have associated ourselves with? And that is number 8. We have done this. We'll run over it once. Number 8. Amanitvam dambhitvam ahimsakshantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham sthairymatva mavinigraha. Amanityam. Okay, so Bhagwan said these are things which you are not. So very quickly, what are the things which we are not? Man, this pride, this gurur. किस चीज़ का गुरूर, किस चीज़ का घमंड? ये तो आनी जानी चीज़ है. एक दिन हमारे पास बहुत पैसा आ गया, या बहुत धन, या बहुत खुशी, या बहुत सक्सेस, या फेम, या whatever, कीर्ति. And I'm floating around in this great joy of pride. Man is aani jani cheez. So it is not you. The moment we dissociate with what is not the real me, of course, सब कुछ आनी जानी है, then it becomes easier to handle everything, success and sorrow, and joy and of course dejection, whatever. So he has said, first word, amanitvam, be humble, because this pride is not who you really are. Adambitvam, and there are 9 such qualities mentioned. Adambitvam, unpretentiousness. We will go into the details to understand why these things attach themselves to us. What is the mischief the mind is playing? Because merely reading a list of names, a list of adjectives, is not going to make us free of those qualities. It's not going to free us. We will only intellectually understand, but we won't understand why the mind is pushing us into it. So we will analyze that a little later. First, let's understand Adambitvam, unpretentiousness. That means not proclaiming what we are not. You know, sometimes we like to pretend, especially in social circles or in the media, on social media, on social platforms, or in front of the boss or family members, something that we are not, having something we don't have, being having some qualities we don't have. Why do we pretend? Bhagwan says, and this is in the Bhagavad Gita, we have to take it seriously. It's going to draw us, this pretentiousness is going to drag us spiritually into the morass of sansar, into the ditch of sansar. Okay. Ahimsa. Of course we understand this word. There is nothing rocket science about it. But yes, but the mind will still compel us in times of provocation. If somebody provokes me into reaction by showing me down or insulting or ignoring me or showing ingratitude, whatever it is, the moment I feel that I have been wronged, there is a strange feeling in the mind. At least there's a thought. I may not give it an action. I may not give it an outer form, but there is a thought ki I want to see that person suffer for this nonsense that the person has done. Why do you want to see that person suffer? Don't we know that karmic law will take care of them? And we are going to see the details of ahimsa. So non-injury, shanti. Here the word is not shanti as in sure, but kshanti as in kshama. Kshama, forgiveness. Forgiveness is the capacity, it's a great capacity of someone to suffer for a long time without wanting to retaliate. Because we understand the truth, we don't want to retaliate. It is one of the qualities of a very, very strong personality, a very strong character. Very, very strong character is the one who can forgive. So, kshanti, arjavam. Uprightness. Uprightness means what? That in your thought, in our words and in our deeds, we are not inclined to be artificial, to try and take advantage of someone, to be better, to be cunning and to feel that I am more successful, you take advantage of someone. No, straightforward. Whatever it is, it is. Acharya Upasanam. Acharya Upasanam in the second line of this verse, and that is service to the teacher. That means service doesn't mean literally pandering to the teacher's material needs. That has no meaning. Yes, in the olden days when they had the Guru Shishya Parampara and the Shishya would live as a resident student within the campus within the home of the Guru, of course the student looked after the firewood and the cleanliness of the angan and made sure that the food, the meal was well cooked and all. All this is material. It was needed because the student lived in the home of the Guru. But here it has a much wider meaning, and over thousands of years the Guru Shishya Parampara has changed. So the one meaning that has not changed is when we identify with the teachings of the teacher, and the teacher could be just an ordinary teacher like me who is just trying to translate some verses, or it could be an acharya who is a scholar, or it could be a real guru meaning the one who can point the way and who has realized himself, a realized one. So there are many variations to this, but anyone pointing, even merely pointing the way, when we are lost in a new city and we are grateful to the as if we are driving through, and we are very grateful even to a normal vendor on the street who says, oh, you must turn left here, otherwise you will miss the highway. We are grateful even for someone, he doesn't know your final destination. We are just asking the way to a certain point, and we are grateful because he puts us on the right path. But the finally the one who takes us towards realization is called the guru. But here Bhagavan says, Acharya Upasanam, show gratitude to anyone who is pointing even the smallest in a smallest way. We will go into the details of what are the things a teacher can bring into our lives. And we have all had teachers, that's why we are here. Shaucham is not in this. Yes, it is in the second line. Shaucham, purity. Purity of body we understand, and we also understand that this body actually is made of Panchatattva, and therefore the Panchatattva, that is air, water, fire, etc., they are just chemical reactions, they are just a chemical bundle in our body. So we are nothing but a chemical bundle of Panchatattva, and therefore these chemicals are forever changing and forever acting with each other, and therefore this body can never be clean. It has to be cleaned again and again and again, because this Panchatattva cannot forever remain clean. We understand the body cleanliness, and that's why repeated cleanliness, we take care of it. What about the Shaucham, that is purity or cleanliness of our emotions? I can clean my feet if I notice that they are dusty or the soles have gone black from walking on the mud. If I notice it. If I don't notice that my emotions are going towards abhiman, adambitvam, pretentiousness, false pride, not being able to forgive, and running in my mind all the time how someone has wronged me over and over again. If I'm not watching it, how can I clean it? How can I purify it? So our vigilance and our attention to it is so very important. No, Bhagwan is going to come and do it for us. That attention and noticing. Yes, when we are young, our mother comes and says, okay, clean your hands. I can see there that it's been dipped in jam. But we are on a spiritual path where at least this much we have to help ourselves by noticing our intentions, emotions and feelings and passions. Where are they running? If they're running in the wrong directions, it's okay. No need to flog ourselves, no need to punish ourselves, but it's time to bring the mind back to purity. And how do you bring it back? By simply saying, look, am I associating with all this? This is all part of body, mind, intellect, envelopment. I'm not just the envelopment of all this. I am something bigger, I am something deeper. I am the permanent, I am the infinite. Hey, and if still my mind doesn't agree, because the mind बहुत ढीठ होता है, it is very obstinate, then you just take recourse to Bhagwan. Bhakti में चले जा सकते हैं हम और कहते हैं, Bhagwan, I can't help myself, I am being dragged into this impurities, you help me, that's all. That means Bhagwan, as a Bhakt also we can take help of Sagun Sakar Bhagwan, but at least after noticing that I need help. ये impurities, ये intentions and motives, मेरा मन कहाँ भाग रहा है? Some attractions here, some attractions there, some revenge over here, some hatred over there, थोड़े passions over here, बस भटक रहा है. There is nothing, the mind does not have a proper goal of its own. इंद्रियां जहाँ ले जाती है वही उसका वो गोल बन जाता है. It is a slave of the इंद्रिया. तो मन के पीछे हम जब भाग रहे हैं, we have no proper goal in life. So in fact it is such a crazy mind that if we are unhappy about not getting something, it wallows in unhappiness. If we achieve or acquire that object for which it was hankering and pleading, the mind that is, then we get it, and at that point the mind says, बस इतना ही था. Oh, I'm so disappointed कि मुझे, now I want something else. So for 15 years, if I wanted a Mercedes and I was saving up for it, and I really wanted, and I looked at envy at all the people who owned a Mercedes, मेरा इंद्रियां और मन उसमें अटका हुआ था 15 साल तक. And then maybe suddenly I got a very good project or a job, and I came into some money and I spent it on buying a Mercedes. Wow. So the mind says, wow, this is real joy. For 15 years it hankered for the joy, and after 15 years when it achieves it, it says, yeah, great. But that joy does not last long. After some time, that Mercedes, of course we polish it and wash it, and even look at it with loving eyes, and don't take all our friends in it. We keep it as something that is very prized for some years, for some months. After some time it passes into the hands of the driver कि अब मैं थक गया हूँ, जाओ तुम उसको पोछो. किसको? Oh, my beloved Mercedes. The mind plays such tricks. It plays this trick with everything that it wanted, and then when it acquired it, it felt empty. कि बस यही था, चलो अब कुछ और चाहिए. तो किसी शायर ने लिखा है, बाग में लगता नहीं. बाग means a beautiful garden. The mind is unhappy even there, wants something else. बाग में लगता नहीं, सहरा से घबराता है जी. सहरा means desert, the opposite of a garden. So सहरा से भी घबरा जाता है. If it's lonely and if it's not able to achieve, it becomes distraught. बाग में लगता नहीं, सहरा से घबराता है ये मन, मेरा मन. अब कहाँ ले जाके बैठे हम इस दीवाने को. कहाँ ले जाके बैठे means it's part of me, but it's like a दीवाना, like a madman whom I am chasing. कहाँ ले जाके बैठे इस दीवाने को हम. Well, that is, it will not allow you shaucham. That is purity of your own intentions, because the intentions of the mind are something else. It is not purity. The mind is not seeking purity. It is seeking what the indriya, the senses are chasing. So who's going to discipline the mind and watch out? We. And who is this we? It's the intellect. Let's say it is the intellect. So in the beginning we need the intellect, and because intellect is able to distinguish, be able to do vivek between what is useful, what is useless, what is permanent, what is impermanent, what is of value and what ultimately becomes valueless. Ye vivek, discrimination, only buddhi can do. It's okay. In the beginning, take the help of the buddhi to reach that shaucham. And then Bhagwan uses the word stharyam. Bhagwan needs all these qualities in us. We have to develop them. Stharyam is steadfastness. But we have been very, very steadfast, God. We have been steadfast in achieving our promotions and our higher salaries and change of job, change of country. Why? Because we want a better lifestyle, better standard of living, and we have chased all these dreams with steadfastness. And we have taught our children to chase all these dreams, material dreams, that is, with steadfastness. So you mean to say we and our children don't know about steadfastness? Yes, of course we do. Except that they are directed in the direction of material gain. Material gain चाहे जितना भी हो जाए, ultimately the richest man, the most powerful king and the most powerful CEO of any company has to leave it behind for his own children or grandchildren to enjoy. He's not even going to enjoy all of that accumulation. So a person may say, yeah, okay, but I still enjoy thinking that my future generations will benefit from my wealth. ठीक है, materially they will benefit, but spiritually have we left them any wealth at all? We have not. Why? Because we don't have that enough wealth of our own spiritually to leave it as a legacy for our future generations. We are impoverished. We have a paucity of spiritual wealth ourselves. And why do we call it spiritual wealth? Because this wealth carries forward to the future lifetimes. So naturally what gets left behind is mere sand on the beach, mere shells and pebbles on the beach, and we are busy collecting them and saying that yes, we are steadfast. But sorry, Bhagwan says in the wrong direction. Be steadfast only and only saying that I want the ultimate truth, I want to be one with that ultimate truth finally, whatever that is. That jigyasa, that thirst, usme steadfast aap rahiye. That is what Bhagwan is saying. Sthetvarya vinigraham So, vinigraham, atma vinigraha, it means self-control. Vinigraha means control, and atma, of course, means self. When do we need self-control? The only time we need self-control is when something is dragging us out. It's like saying the horses are being dragged out by some thieves out into the field where they were protected in my home or wherever I kept them, in the stables. And in the night the thieves came and they are stealing and dragging them out of the stables. Yes, that is called stealing, and anything that is dragging us out into the world of sansar. And what do we call sansar? Anything that is nashwar, anything that will destroy, be destroyed, and is impermanent, and it is finite. So everything that is finite out there is dragging us out through some promise, some false promise that come here, I'm going to give you permanent happiness. Some object, some situation, some person, some relationship, vastu, vyakti, paristhiti, ghatna is promising us. These are all false promises. Because that shair has said, ab kahan leke baithe is diwane ko. Diwana means diwana man. The man is mad. It is following all the wrong thieves, dragging us out. And so, vinigraha, we have to say, oh, okay. Now, anything that is nashwar is not going to give me permanent happiness. Do I have to be dragged out? Do I have to pander to this latest passion or desire that I am entertaining? No, I don't have to. So, learning to drop it and saying, it's okay if I have it. It's okay if I don't have it. That is the ultimate Atma Vinigraha. Self-control in the world outside. This takes care of verse number 8. Okay. Now, what are Shankaracharya? May I remind you? Of course, powerful lines of Shankaracharya, so we must repeat them. Ma kuru dhan jan. Ma means do not. Karo. Dhan, jan, yauvan. Your beauty and your youth, yauvan, garv, and your relationships, jan and dhan, are all dissipating every moment. They are dissipating and dying. So, when we get into even relationships, we think that this thing will give me permanent joy. Those things are finite. So, we are interacting with it with a finite mind and body and our outer shell, that is kshetra, the outer field. Tell me, which mathematician will tell us that finite plus finite will give is equal to infinite? No science, no mathematics is going to prove this, because it's not true. Two finites will always give finite result. यानी कि हम नश्वर हैं, नश्वर चीज़ों के साथ संगति रख रहे हैं, नश्वर पदार्थों के साथ संगति रख रहे हैं, अंत दोनों का वही होना है. फ्यूनरल पायर और द डस्ट, दोनों का, फाइनाइट का अंत सबका एक है. सो हरति निमेषत काल सर्वः, ये सब कुछ जो जिस पर हम गर्व कर रहे हैं, जिस पर अभिमान कर रहे हैं, वो सब काल is of course the inexorable, relentless, unforgiving time factor. वो time का principle जो है काल, निमेषत, वो हमेशा हर लेगा, हरति, it will steal all this from us, sarvam, all of it is going to be gone. Why don't we imagine, some of our gurus even went to the extent of saying that why can't we just visualize ourselves on the funeral pyre, that one fine day, of course we know it's a fact and it's the end. Some people are distressed, but I think I can take the chance. By now we are spiritually matured enough to take a chance to think about such a visual, because this visual is powerful in shaking us out of our reverie, our own delusion कि मैं यही हूँ और ये सब कुछ जो है वो मेरा है. ये एक powerful visualization चाहिए to shake us out of it. वो क्या है? Think about us, about ourselves. One fine day, our loved ones are carrying us with prayer on their lips to the funeral pyre. When we think of that vision, we say, if this is going to be my end, तो फिर मैं ये सब चीज़ में क्यों लिप्त हूँ? Why am I getting so hung up as they say in American language, so attached and so involved with anything? And so Vairagya comes naturally. Even when we see someone else on the funeral pyre, when we see our loved ones or our distant relatives or friends who have passed away, even at that point in time, there is a touch of Vairagya, this detachment, this sense of, we are shaken out of our material hankering, isn't it? Although that is momentary. How momentary is that? Now Bhagavan says, okay, if you are going to have self-control, think of how finite everything is. Adam Bitwan, the second one, of course, is proclaiming too much about ourselves. We had talked about these things, and I just want to give some examples that are relevant over here. Amanitvam, the very first one, that deals with man, pride. Pride about what? It is said that the pot which is facing the ground, that means it's upturned, it doesn't have an open mind. मैं जो हूँ ठीक हूँ, मैं जैसा कर रहा हूँ ठीक हूँ, scriptures मुझे नहीं चाहिए. Keep your there's so many times I've heard it saying, आप अपना ज्ञान अपने पास रखिए, keep it to yourself. It's okay, that's fine with us. Now if the pot which is upturned will gather not a single drop of water, the water from the rain will just slide off its back. शास्त्र का जो वर्षा है, अमृत वर्षा of Shastra, it's all around us actually. Open any book, any video, there are umpteen number of meditation videos, there are so many Swamis and so many texts. We are blessed with so many texts, not one text. ये नहीं पसंद आता तो गीता नहीं, तो अष्टावक्र गीता है, तो फिर कठोपनिषद नहीं समझ में आता तो केन उपनिषद है, नहीं समझ में आता तो शंकराचार्य की. Oh, we are blessed with torrential rain of Shastra. And the pot, unfortunately, it may be upturned and not a drop will be saved in the pot. It's just a manner of speaking that when we open up our minds and our hearts and our thirst, कि मुझे तो सत्य जानना है, बाकी सब मैं अपनी ड्यूटी करके दौड़ के अपने आप अंदर आके बैठ जाऊंगा. अपने कहाँ अंदर में? अंतः मन में, अंतःकरण में. क्योंकि बाहर तो मुझे करना है, जो भी करना है, ड्यूटीज ऑफ कोर्स करना है, करके दौड़ के आ जाऊंगा. Or if I am more, let's say, steady, more realized, then even while doing the outer duties, I can remain steady inside in the antahakaran and keep that steadiness controlled. But if the pot is facing upward, it can gather in the torrential rain, and that's how humility comes. So मान जो हमारा है ना, akad, that only destroys us. So in nature also we have seen that a tree which is standing very hard and erect, like the coconut palm trees, they are the ones which perish in a storm. In a storm, have you ever seen a blade of grass breaking up or shattering? It never happens to a blade of grass because it's small, humble, bending to the direction of the wind and saying, मैं तो कुछ नहीं हूँ भाई. Blow the, जितना भी storm आना है दुनिया में, जितना भी let's say the storms of life, जितने भी आने हैं मेरे life में, distress and sorrow and the words of people and मान and अपमान and जय and पराजय, जितना भी आना है, let it blow over me. I will just bend low when the storm is blowing, says the blade of grass. And when the storm is blown over, I'll stand and enjoy the sunlight. I'm okay. I'm nothing. मैं क्या हूँ? मैं तो कुछ भी नहीं हूँ. That blade of grass survives and lives on. And so जो बहुत मान करते हैं, holding false pride, will break easily. They hurt easily. They are insulted easily. उनका अपमान बड़ा easily हो जाता है कि अरे मुझे VIP रो में क्यों नहीं मुझे कुर्सी मिली. And then all the relationships break up because my expectation was that I'm a big donor in that particular institution or mandir or ashram. Of course, I may be a big donor, but doesn't mean I must always get the VIP seat. Maybe that day it got full because there were more guests or more swamis or whatever. How does it matter? as long as we are completing our job. What have we come here to do in this world? We have come in this world only and only to know the truth. Truth about what? About ourselves. Who am I? Who is this real self, the capital S wala self? And what is this Jagat, this Sansar? And what is Paramatma? 3 questions if I have answered, only then I am able to justify my presence in the body of a human shell. I am in a human shell. I have to justify it because only a human being can go beyond it. And Hitopdesh has said very clearly, Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithuna, fear, relationships, and Nidra, that is sleep and fear and food. All animals know all these things. Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithuna, Samane Tattva Pashubhir Naranam. Naranam. Nar mein, Pashu mein, Saman Tattva hai ye dono. But what distinguishes us from other creatures? We have to be distinguished. Otherwise we would might as well live in the animal body. It says Dharmo. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho. Vishesh yani distinguishing factor. एक ही है. That is physical relationship. Okay, so so Vishesh, the only thing is dharmo, dharma. Dharmena hina pashubhi samanata. Samanaha. We are as good as animals, samanaha. Without dharmena hina. Hina means without dharmena. We are like pashubhi samana. Hitopdesh mein ye likha hua hai. Okay. Now, dharma here means what? We might think that, oh my God, now dharma again has so many connotations that we have got confused. Yes, dharma has acquired a lot of connotations because of its overuse. So, we are not talking about dharma in the common parlance of religious, outer religious practices in the temples of worship. No, we are talking about dharma as in my only duty in this life is to know the truth about myself. My only goal, my dharma, is to know my swarup. Swarup is my true self. That, in that sense, if we see dharma, which other creature can do it? No other creature can do it. And what about this earth? I may get many lives to solve this problem about knowing myself. ऐसे अच्छा चलो कभी और पहचान लेंगे अपने आप को. True, very true. But this earth itself may exist for another 200,000 million years. Whatever that number means, 200,000 million years, even if it exists. What after that? Our chance, so what? I may still come here 200 million times. But my chance to transform is now. That opportunity to change the antahakaran, to make it shuddha, shaucham, chitta shuddhi, that is to remove all these vikara, is now. Now is my only chance. So my chance, why am I going to lose my chance to become amanitvam? As the list says in verse, it's a longish list of 9 qualities. Humility, having no sense of false pride. Adambitvam, pretentiousness. Ahimsa. Now, what did man, this sense of pride about मैं कौन हूँ, मैं तो योद्धा हूँ, I am a great warrior, was with Duryodhan. It is Duryodhan who had this false feeling. Arjuna, of course, was a great warrior also, but he knelt at the feet of God and he said, look, Shishyaste ham tvam prapannam, I surrender at your feet. I really am lost. He did not have this false sense. Duryodhan, on the other hand, was actually insulting his own teacher, Dronacharya. How? By using sarcasm and saying, look Dronacharya, I know that you have taught both the Kauravas and the Pandavas, but please don't show partiality towards the Pandavas. Dronacharya never said he is going to be partial. Why the sarcasm? Because you have no sense of, you have no confidence in yourself. That yes, I am a Yodha. Dronacharya's fighting on my side and he will fight for me. And in fact, he even told him that, Drishtadumna, who is the son of Drupad, your not roommate, his colleague, his classmate, Dronacharya's classmate, his son was destined to actually kill Dronacharya. Destined in the sense, that's what his father had told him. Dronacharya knows this, Drishtadumna is going to kill him, and yet he has been his teacher to show him the best the best skills of warfare. A teacher will never step back if he knows every skill he will impart to the student. That's an honest teacher. Dronacharya taught him everything, knowing very well that Drishtadumna would finally assassinate him, kill him. Now Duryodhan doesn't have to be sarcastic and say, see, you taught a man the skill of warfare and he is now going to kill you. So what? Dronacharya is the one who has confidence in being an honest teacher, a man of integrity. But this pride is your downfall. What we are talking about amanitvam. Duryodhan's pride is what has made him a villain down the ages. So whether we achieve something or not, whether it's not a matter of pride. Hanuman, he just knelt at the feet of Ram and he said, I am your ambassador, I am your Ram Doot. That's all is my identity. Of course, later on in a philosophical sense, he told him that if you ask my Atma, then I am only you, Ram. I and you are the same. But if you ask the body level, then I am your slave. So that was his humility. What about Martin Luther King? He had said that, yes, even if I achieve power, that power is to be used for the service of others. That means I am Pradhan Sevak, not a Pradhan ruler. That is called humility. Having achieved the highest position in the land, and still Martin Luther King, that's why people like him are revered to this day. Duryodhan is not revered. What about Krishna? Krishna knows that he is a charioteer. He is not playing God. He is giving him the advice and the Gyan only when Arjun asked for it, and he said, Shishyasteham Tvam Prapannam, I am your student and you have to give me. Only when he begged for knowledge. Otherwise, Krishna was what? He wasn't strutting about saying, look, I am invincible. Who can destroy me? I am God. He said, no, I am a charioteer. That's a role somebody gave me and I accept it. Even Krishna's humility is so disarming, is so charming. What about Jamshedji? These are some examples about amanitvam, about people who don't carry pride like some adornment around their shoulders. Jamshedji Tata, you know that he actually transformed the economy of the country. If you read his biography, one of the most beautiful biographies, it's called Beyond the Blue Mountain, Jamshedji Tata. And you also know that he belonged to a community who several centuries ago were refugees in India from Iran. So their lineage is not even from, geographically let's say, from India. But he contributed to the country so much that, to humanity so much, because he had great wealth. But do you know, in the list of wealthiest men, it is not his name on the top. His name is on the top for the first person, the one who is the philanthropist of the century. He is not the richest man of the century. In that list, he does not figure on top. Philanthropist, the one who did so much seva out of that wealth that he gained the khitab of philanthropist. This is called amanitvam. So when we say amanitvam and no pride and things, we have to look for relevant examples, something that inspires us, something somewhere has to inspire us. Otherwise, we keep this ego which refuses to be shattered. And that's why in our Indian culture, it is ingrained in our children, not those of us who have been educated in the modern Western sense, unfortunately, but in our culture we are ingrained with the principle of gratitude, of reverence, of giving back to society. How? Everything that has contributed to my existence, I have to give back. That is why Deva Rin, Deva Yagya. I have a Rin. Rin means debt. I have a debt towards nature. It sustains me. Pitra Rin, my culture is sustained because of my ancestors. Rishi Rin, my scriptures are sustained because somebody has read them out to me, some Swami or some Rishi, and the Rishi has found the truth and it has been passed down the ages. I have, in order to find that truth, I have a great debt towards Rishis. So Rishi Rin, how do I pay these debts back? Yes, that's a different story, and we can do it. And of course, Manushya Rin, everyone around us is helping to support us. This is part of ingrained in our culture. If we treat our life as this big debt that we have to pay to nature, to rishis, to our culture, that is Pitra Rin, and to Manushya Rin, Deva Rin, Rishi Rin. If we remember that we are paying off our debts, how can there be pride? How can we strut about with great pride saying, मैं ये achieve करा, हमने ये achieve किया है, ये position achieve किया है, and ये rank achieve किया है, and this is the position in the company? Or it would be impossible to strut about like that when we are brought up in a culture where we are made to believe that we are living in debt, my dear. We are living in debt. We have to pay up. This is payback time. Payback time, as the Americans say. And therefore we see in the world today also those who have achieved except I don't know about Elon Musk, he's the latest in the he's the richest man today, but those who have achieved this status of richest man, Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, they have always done something to turn around and say, okay, so what? Am I going to sleep on a bed of gold? Am I going to fly in an aeroplane encrusted with diamonds? There is a limit to even having a bhog of that wealth, of enjoying that wealth. Usko bhog bhi nahi kar sakte, because, and at that point there's a turning point, and all these Bill Gates and Melinda Gates are just examples. But there's, and also of course Jamshedji Tata and Azim Premji in India. These are examples only of people who have said, yes, I have wealth, but so what? I'm still in debt. With all the great wealth, they're still in debt. Debt of what? Of society. I have to pay back. That's why it's called payback time. It's not called charity time. Charity is what? I am above you. No, it's payback. I have got so much from society, I have to pay back. So living with a sense of gratitude and a sense of indebtedness is the only thing that will lead us to amanitvam. The very first word, I'm taking time to dwell on the word amanitvam, because it's not easy to shake off this sense of pride that has become part of the personality. In fact, even a leader within a company, even a CEO of a company is revered for his humility, not for his great personality. Uski personality kahan tak dur jayegi, but humility, yes, it makes a difference in people's lives. So we are meant to invoke that gratitude and indebtedness in all that we have. How to develop this sense of humility? Can be cultivated. Yes, if we make an attempt, it can be cultivated for future lifetimes. It may not make a very big difference in the immediate future. It's so deeply encrusted, the pride, So to cultivate humility, we are told, why don't you identify with some cause which is greater than you. Greater than you means मैं, मेरा फैमिली, मेरी कम्युनिटी, मेरी सोसाइटी, मेरा धर्म, इससे उठकर, इसके ऊपर अगर कोई भी cause हो, just identify blindly, just identify with it and see that whether we can donate some of our time, our energy and our work, and work there like a servant. Don't go there and say, oh, I've been the principal of a school, or the wife of a CEO or a commandant, or what? How does it matter? That's how we give seva. When we give seva in temples and ashrams, nobody knows who we are. We may have been, great business magnates, or big CEOs who come from abroad. In our ashrams, there are people from Indian communities who come to serve at the ashram, to say they've just come to serve, and they roll up their sleeves and they're scrubbing the floors. So we don't know who they are, because for us they are only classmates. They come to study the scriptures like we have, and that attitude which they bring is what is so disarming. That's why work like a servant for someone or something. It will automatically bring down our sense of pride. It will inculcate a bit of humility in us, maybe. But we have to be careful. Sometimes we become proud of our humility also and say, you know how humble. That's really counterproductive, and it's really a paradox, and it's quite funny. It's a paradox. Let's not get into that. And we are good enough in our intellect to not let the mind fool us in this way, and so that we even bypass humility and become proud of our humbleness. No, we don't allow that. So what else can we do? Remember, what we can do is that in this cosmic time of millions and millions and millions of years of this earth, of this planet, which will also disintegrate, and of this cosmos, who am I? In cosmic time, I am not even a dot. And if you look at the presence of this planet Earth, maybe there is life on other planets, we don't know yet, but maybe there is, because the rishis as well as science tells us that this Earth is just one planet in this one galaxy, and there are millions of galaxies, and in this galaxy there are millions of stars and planets, and there are millions of such galaxies consisting of millions of planets in this cosmos. Millions of galaxies, can you imagine? We're not even saying millions of Earths or planets. So when we remember that our place is worth not even a dot, we are not even a dot actually in cosmic time and in cosmic space, then all this looks so so comically funny, so comically bloated, that what am I feeling so great about? And either we can think in this way, or if bhakti appeals to us, and bhakti does appeal to us, we can say, look, God or truth or reality, this Saguna, this Sakar, this Brahma is the highest intelligence, whatever it is. And I am part of it, that highest intelligence. I am nothing. Whenever we remember these things, the whole thing is about remembrance. When we remember and recognize, then we can loosen ourselves from the grip, from the weakness of this man, this pride, and become amanitvam, as Bhagwan has directed us. Even in the Ramcharitmanas, it is said that Mukhya mukh so chahiye. Mukhya means the leader has to be like the mukh so chahiye. Why? Because the mouth, mukh means the mouth, the leader has to be like the mouth. Why? Because the mouth chews all the food but does not keep any of the food for itself. It just passes it on to the body for nutrition, for sustenance, for maintenance, and for energy. So it just passes it on. Can we be like that in the society and just chew the food, that is, use all our strength and our talents and our energy and our tej and our abilities and pass it on for the nourishment of others? So that's why in Ramcharitmanas it said the leader, Mukhya, mukh so chahiye, like the mouth. So then we'll say, one might say, if I become too humble and if I become, so where will I find joy? In fact, you will find only and only an ocean of joy. Ask those people who come and we don't know that they are big people with big titles and magnets, and they roll up their sleeves and scrub the floors. Ask them what happiness they get at that time. What is that happiness? And they say, this happiness doesn't compare to anything else, because there is no burden, there is no heaviness of carrying a certain certain false identity about us कि मैं ये हूँ, मैं वो हूँ, मुझे ऐसा behave करना चाहिए, मेरा ये है, मेरा वो है, सब कुछ भूल जाते हैं. And when they go to the ashram and we all join them, anyway for that 1 month we are detached from everything. So मेरा तेरा भी नहीं रहता. In that state, these fellows, they say that this is like infinity. अब जिसको infinite happiness मिल गई है, वो बाहर क्यों ढूंढेगा? So it is like Apuryamanamatala Pratishtham. It's like the ocean where the rivers are washing into it, and it is saying, yeah, it's okay. I don't need more rivers. Or I'm unmoved by all the joys or rivers of the world. This is from chapter 2. Samudramapah pravishanti yadvata. Samudra mein it remains shant no matter how many rivers wash into it. Okay. So this is what is called the inside out approach to developing a personality of our, let's say, children first, then our students, if we are teachers, and of our community, of whole humanity. The character building happens here. And what is the approach? Inside out. Inside out approach simply means that we are now looking at the psychological development, like Krishna is looking at the psychological strength of Arjun. He is not telling him pick up your weapon and see that you use a certain trick in defeating the Kauravas. He is not teaching him anything about warfare. The strength does not lie there. Strength lies in our emotional, in our antakaran, the makeup. That means the strength which we need to face not only the outer world, but the strength to know the ultimate truth. How can it come if there is this man and dambha and false pride and pretentiousness, lack of integrity, asatyam, all this is encrusted upon us. How can I? What about the normal approach which the world follows? The world follows the outside in approach. The outside in approach is that, look son, if your company has a good infrastructure, if your house is of the right size for your status, that is, and if you have the right status and the right car and the right company and the right networking in the world, then you are called successful. Outside in, बाहरी चीजों को दिखाकर उसका सक्सेस का पैमाना, to show people are successful by showing the outer, is the outside in approach. And the inside out approach is, I want you to be strong inside and so powerful, so shuddha, so aware of yourself that nothing in the outer world can harm you or touch you actually, because then you are going to have the qualities of being able to forgive, to move on, to have the strength to contribute, the strength to be non-violent, ahimsa, the strength to be non-pretentious, adhambitvam. Coming to adhambitvam, the question I had put on the group was, why do you think people have the need to pretend? When you know it has nothing to contribute to our spiritual life, why do we pretend? I'll just take a few minutes. First of all, pretension means what? Showing or projecting what I am not. Which means having to say something, having to show something, that is really not part of my life. Why? Because it's the same thing. Unless I know the mischief of the mind, it's the mind which is saying that, oh, I want to be accepted by others. I want approval from others. I want to conform to the standards of the people around me, and their standards are materialistic anyway. I want to be popular. I want to be known. I want to be appreciated. And of course, I don't want people to reject me, you see, कि अरे इनका तो ऐसा है, हम लोग तो ऐसे करते हैं. I don't want that rejection. All this, when we go into pretension for these reasons, all this shows only and only one thing: lack of self-esteem. That's the question I had asked. Why are some of us suffering, or our future generation, from self-esteem such that they are forever seeking approval and status symbolism? All these are status symbols outside, so that they can uphold their so-called pride and status in the world. And they feel that there will be loss of respect, if I don't have this kind of status, if I give up everything, or if I just become a community worker, whatever is not respected. Of course, now community service, giving back to the world, is highly respected. But if we are not believing in ourselves, and if we are pretending, the spiritual loss, the spiritual damage done is that it shatters us inside. Because inside of us, we know who we are. I'm not talking of the real, the ultimate supreme self. Of course, वो तो हमने पहचाना ही नहीं है कभी. लेकिन हमारा even the normal body, mind, intellect, we know who we are, and if we are not as great as the society expects us to be, it's very tiring. It's quite debilitating. That means it takes away our energy if we are pretending all the time. And finally, the society, the people around us also find out sooner or later कि अरे ये तो pretender है, and they lose respect for us. In the long run, we lose out the spiritual life, we lose out even the respect of the people around us. So why do we lose our integrity? Integrity by pretending. Integrity means what? Again, this word needs a definition. Integrity is that my mind and my words and my actions are all in one line. One line. They're not going in different directions. मन में कुछ है, pretend कुछ और कर रहे हैं, मन कुछ और चाहता है, कर कुछ और रहे हैं, just to show others. If I am so fragmented, integrity is like fragmentation. I cannot have the energy, I cannot have the strength to seek my highest purpose in life. Because my energy is already scattered in all these small things. And so also, being a pretender, I will exaggerate about my life. I will show off by doing extravagant weddings, extravagant parties. यानी normal में भी weddings हो सकती है, normal way में भी parties और events हो सकते हैं. But no, too much of opulence, ostentation and extravagance जब दिखाना पड़ता है ना, तब हमको सोचना चाहिए कि अरे ये तो मैं बहुत pretend कर रहा हूँ. Because I like to be flattered. That's why I pretend कि कोई हमको flatter कर दे. Now, am I living in a real world? No. In that sense, I am living a false life in a false world with false values. Bhagavan says, please clear and cleanse yourself of these values. And that's why in the second line he says, Shaucham. I need that cleanliness in you so that I can step into your life. Bhagavan can step into our lives. Having said that, we will see why going ahead, Bhagavan is not satisfied. He says, further, I want you to be free of your slavery to your senses, indriyartheshu. Why I want you to be dispassionate, vairagyama, ahankara evacha. All this coming up in the next verse tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om.